From painting to photography, from beadwork to woodworking, KQAL FM on the campus of Winona State University presents Art Beat. Art Beat highlights the work and accomplishments of local artists from in and around Winona. Support for Art Beat is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
Making a documentary about a film festival that shows documentaries is no easy feat. Today on Art Beat, come sit with me as we talk to Winona State professor and producer of Beneath the Ice, the Frozen River Film Festival story, Dr. Danielle Schwartz. I'm Elly Herrick, telling you to turn it up and tune in as we give you a glimpse of the Frozen River Film Festival. Doing a documentary can be somewhat intimate. I see that in the documentary you're going to committee meetings and you're seeing Eileen work in her office downtown. What is it kind of like to make a documentary about a festival that shows these documentaries?
It takes a lot of patience to kind of let the story unfold and figure out what the story is, because going in we know it's kind of meta, making a documentary about an all-documentary film festival. We kind of start from the premise that Eileen is kind of the spine of the film. She has such a great personality, and honestly, she's worked so hard for this festival. When she approached us, I just thought naturally she would have to be a part of it. And then from there, it was having a lot of conversations with people I know in the community, some people I didn't know as well, and just kind of getting a sense of how other people understand the trajectory of the film festival, its history, what it's brought to the community. And I think that really gave me a lot more insight into the community that I'm a part of. And that's kind of what I love about it. And what I love about documentary is it invites you into communities you might not otherwise be able to experience, and it asks you to kind of, I'm using a phrase from a feminist theorist, but it asks you to kind of playfully world travel, where you're stepping inside someone else's world and you're kind of like the fool who's falling into this, a part of the world that you don't usually have access to. And I think it is humbling because you get to learn a lot about a lot of different things. But I also think that it constantly reminds you of the line between just because I saw this documentary doesn't mean I know everything. And I think in the producing aspect of the film, I felt that a lot. How do we show everything? We can't possibly show everything.
Right.
It would be way too long, hours and hours and hours. And so cutting it down was really hard because it's there's so much that if you're here and you're part of it, and you feel and you get to experience that you just can't always capture. So that was always a little difficult.
Mm-hmm. I think it's always it's such a privilege to be in Minnesota and have the opportunity to receive grants and have the just showing the festival and having it be accredited to what it is now. And this is their 20-year anniversary. So that's really awesome to see how the festival has grown and how it will continue to change and grow. So for this documentary specifically, how did this idea come about? You said Eileen approached you. What was that kind of like?
Yeah, so she approached me. I had been doing a lot of different kinds of work with the festival. I've run their summer camps and done a bunch of educational stuff with them. A lot of my students get internship opportunities through the festival. So we've always kind of had a working relationship. And she just said to me, I want to make a documentary, and I want you to produce it. And I have a budget. And that's any filmmaker's dream, to have someone come to you and be like, here's money, go make a film. So that was really exciting. And I have a good friend, Curtis Motzke, who directed the film. We've been friends since undergrad. We met at Michigan State University in our film studies program. And we've kept in touch all this time. He's Chicago-based. And I said, this seems right up your alley. You're doing work like this, and it would be cool. We'd get to hang out. We'd also get to make a film together. And it's been a really long time. I'm not going to say how many years, but over a decade, almost two, since we've been able to do that. So it just was exciting to kind of invite other people into the project. So I had some student workers as well. Two of them are now graduated and they're engaged. And so it's just, really kind of cool to see how relationships blossom, friendships, professional relationships. through that kind of work.
Kind of like a full circle moment there, like you've been with undergrad with him and now you can make this film together. What was that like? I feel like that must have been like so fun. Like, did that kind of like spark up memories from when you were an undergrad?
Yeah, we reminisced a lot about undergrad. But we also, it was interesting because it's like you're getting to know someone you know very well in a completely different context when you're working with them. And there are moments where I'm like, oh, you're like any director. As a producer, I want to shake you and be like, we have to think about the budget. We have to do this. We have to do that. But at the end of the day, Curtis's vision was so strong. He's not from Winona, but he came here and he immediately was just open to experiencing what Winona is like and getting the vibe. And also, like, he was really, really fair in allowing Winona to speak for itself. He didn't impose an identity on a place that so many people love and call home. And I just, it was really fun. I mean, honestly, I'm so excited he's coming back for this festival. I can't wait to see him and to see people watch the film with him. Like, I think that's going to be really fun.
Mm-hmm. I think even with, like, talking about, like, identity, even the first couple shots of the film, like, you can kind of, I don't know if, like, it's on the Amtrak or something, but you see, like, you're kind of coming into Winona, and I just thought that was such a beautiful opening to the documentary. And you worked on this documentary as a producer. How was that, like, role kind of like, because you're working with a group of, like, students and other people that are, like, going to different locations, doing interviews, finding people to talk to. So, like, what was, I guess you're used to the role probably, but how was it like to be a producer for this film?
So I was on the producer track when I was working out in LA, and then I got really burnt out, and I was like, you know, I really like thinking about films and talking about films. I think I'm going to go to grad school. So I haven't, like, done this kind of work in a while. And I think for me, it was a challenge to put myself back out there. I had only lived in Winona, I think, at that point 2 years. So I didn't feel like I know this place like the back of my hand or like I know everything. And a lot of the producer's job is to find the people to talk to, schedule things, take care of the budget, manage the budget, make sure that people are getting paid, that people's labor is recognized, all of those kinds of things. So I think that it was probably the most challenging part was that I was also doing my full-time job, which is being a professor here at Winona State. And so it was kind of hard in that sense, but we were really good about scheduling weekends. And then the festival, like, I would, you know, make sure my classes, like the course schedules were designed to be a little lighter during the festival so that students could get out and see the festival, but also so that I could do that job, right? I think that I had a lot of help and guidance from Eileen and from other community members. And every time I talked to someone, they'd be like, oh, have you talked to this person? You should reach out to them. And so I felt like it was a really good way to get to know people in the community and start to really feel like, oh, yeah, this is my community. I live here. I'm part of this. And now I get to know, like, who people are and, you know, make connections with people.
Mm-hmm. Did, like, finally putting yourself out there and making those, like, talking to new people and kind of doing those things and connecting with your community, did that kind of motivate you to keep going when, like, there were challenges or things were hard?
Yeah, definitely. I knew that, let's say we interviewed someone and the vibe was just off, or, you know, sometimes people are a little nervous in front of the camera, and so they'll be a little stiff and it can be hard to warm them up, especially, you know, we started and, like, COVID still has a presence, right? And so it's like making decisions like, do I wear a mask while I do this interview where I need to connect with this person, get them to warm up in front of the camera? I also want to protect myself, but will I fully be able to do my job? And so, like, making decisions like that were tough. But then I also knew that if an interview didn't go well, there were always other people that were willing to help. And I think that's what's so beautiful about Winona is that people are always willing to help you.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of felt that sense of community too. Like, anything you do, there's always someone that will be like, yeah, I'll help you. So you mentioned, like, kind of what was the process of making this film? So when, like, watching it, I saw, like clips from past festivals. So what was like the logistics of making this film like?
Yeah, so me and Cassie Bauer, who was the associate producer on the film, it started with us in the archives at the Winona Historical Center, and we were digging through, they pulled boxes and boxes and boxes for us all about the festival. And so we were digging through it, trying to build first a timeline of who did what for the festival when, and get a sense of like, okay, this director started, or Crystal founded it in this state, and then Crystal was with the festival for this long, and then this happened where it wasn't just an event, it became a business, and then this happened. And so digging through the archives was like kind of our first step. And then shooting during the festival was a huge part of it. So a lot of what we had to do was get B-roll. So just walking around different screenings, trying to film. We had signs up everywhere so people knew, like, we're filming in this area. If you're in this area, you're going to be on camera. And then once we got through the first year of the documentary, so that was all the archival research, that was all of the kind of pre-meetings and development meetings, scheduling. We had an initial weekend with Eileen leading up to the festival, and then the first festival that we were filming. Then we had a much better sense of like the direction of the story. And so then we knew exactly what we needed to get for the next festival and the next time Curtis was able to come into town. And then from there, it was working with Curtis, and then we hired a third-party story editing production company out of Chicago. And they are called Third Beacon, and they're super helpful in really shaping the story into what we wanted it to be and taking lots and lots of notes. They were super patient with us. Curtis and I are both exactists to some degree, and so they were really, they got every note, and it's really exciting to be able to watch like the final cut of it and be happy with it. They're not look at like, or not see any imperfections. Like it just feels like, okay, this is exactly what we wanted it to be. So the process really, a lot of it in the beginning is like fly by the seat of your pants. And then once you've done that and you review what you have, it starts to take shape. And we're like, okay, here are the topics that seem most important that we cover. Here's how we bring levity to the film and how we make it fun. Here's how we make sure audiences are engaged and they don't like fall asleep or get bored during it, right? And I think that was trusting the process in the beginning was a huge reason why we were able to craft a film that I'm proud of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when did you start like filming this?
So we started 2.5 years ago. I think Eileen approached me in the fall, early fall of, it's 2025 right now. So 2022. And then Curtis came in to the picture in between September and November. And then he came in, I think, right before the festival for our kind of like sense of like, all right, let's sit down, let's think about things. Why don't you come to Winona and see the place so you know what you're getting yourself into? And then let's start some planning and developing our pre-production plan.
Right. And so when you were making this documentary, was there something you learned about the Frozen River Film Festival that you didn't know, or even about documentary making itself?
Yeah, I didn't know about a lot of the things that are in the film. So I had no idea about the thing with Frack Nation and with Gasland. So that whole controversy, I didn't know about, quote unquote, can I say Penisgate?
Yes, you can.
I didn't know about Penisgate. And I think what I learned ultimately, while those are like interesting little moments from the festival's history, what I really learned is how much this festival is dependent on a strong community and how much the community also depends on the festival for entertainment at a time of the year when it's freezing and there's not much else to do.
Right. This year, the lake is definitely frozen enough.
Yeah, it's definitely frozen over.
And so with this documentary, like having that kind of powerful statement of having like, with like the Frack Nation thing, kind of having like lows of that and maybe even bringing in some like comedic twists with like penis gate and things. So what do you think is the power to documentary, like that kind of art form itself? And Frozen River has been showing documentaries for this long. Like, why do you think they've stuck to that? Like, what kind of power is with documentary?
I think documentary, for Winona specifically, for rural communities, it offers us the ability to experience the world when we otherwise wouldn't get to experience it, and parts of the world. And by parts, I don't just mean geographically, but I mean culturally, that we don't necessarily have access to. And I think one of the most amazing things that is a result of this festival specifically is the dialogue that happens after. While Gasland and Frack Nation was a big controversy, what's really cool about reflecting on it in the film is we get to stage an interesting conversation about it with multiple different viewpoints about why it looked that way or how it happened, and it kind of highlights how there's not like one truth. And I think that's something that our world is finding less and less easy to accept, that sometimes there's more than one truth, right? And I think that's the power in documentary, that it really kind of forces us to question what truth is and forces us to talk about it.
Yes, in the documentary it talks about like kind of like that magic of documentary and how like those kind of conversations you have after the fact. Have you had any like interesting or even weird conversations with like filmmakers or even like people that watched a film and you're like, okay, what do you think? And then they like,
yeah.
It's
really interesting when you come across someone who, when you like saw a film and you're like, this is going to be the film festival's darling. Like, this is such a good film. I was so impressed by everything about it. And then you meet someone and they're like, I hated it. I think those are the most interesting conversations because it's like, well, why did you hate it? I think it's easy for us to say what we don't like about a film more so than what we do like about a film because we have such strong feelings. And so that, I think, is one of the best ways to spark a good conversation is like, what did you hate? Because chances are there's a lot more reasons why you didn't like something than when it's like, well, what did you like? Well, I don't know. I just liked it, right? I think that last night I went to see a film and I had already seen it because I'm one of the judges and I think it's beautiful. Like, it's one of my favorites. And I really believe in my soul. I'm like, everyone's going to love this film. Everyone's going to think it's the greatest film of the festival. And then after it ended, I could hear people behind me talking about like, well, that was really sad. Because it was a sad film. And then like someone said, I mean, beautiful, but sad. I'm like, oh my God, is that like, because it was sad, will someone not like it? Like that, I hadn't really thought of that, how our emotions can kind of drive what we're into and what we're not. And so I think even that just made me think about documentary a little differently.
Filmmakers, they like make the film and then it's screened and then they can come to the Winona area and like kind of see it be screened. And there's filmmakers that submit their films like internationally and they also come to the festival, which I thought is really cool. What do you think about like the opportunity like that is, like especially since there's some screenings happening at Winona State like for students to talk to filmmakers kind of in a casual setting? What do you think about like that kind of opportunity, like even as like a Winona resident? I feel like that would be cool.
Yeah, I think it's such a good opportunity, especially for students who are interested in the arts or in the humanities, for them to get to talk to the filmmakers themselves. Oh my God, the sense of understanding they get about what goes into a film is so different than just watching it, right? And I think when they see that and they get access to the filmmakers, they get a more realistic sense of this is what it takes. This is what goes into making a film. This is the amount of work you have to put in for your art. And I think that can be a wake-up call for some students. And for others, it can be really encouraging that like, oh, I've been working this hard and I can see myself doing this. I can see myself in this person and in this profession. And I think that's really special. And then for community members, I think again, it's just a really great opportunity to connect with people who are doing amazing things in the world. We don't get that opportunity often. And even in our daily lives, when we do get to talk to interesting people, I think we often take it for granted. So the fact that we get to say, this is this person's film, you just watched it, and now you get to talk with them, kind of highlights for people that connection is really important and it's really special, and we should really cherish that opportunity. So I have Erica Valenciana, one of the filmmakers who has a film in this year's festival, is coming to my class later today. And then she's also running a workshop on stop motion. And I told my students, like, you are so lucky you get to ask her. It's a filmmaking class. So you get to ask her all about how she funds her films, how she, sets up her gear, how she carries her gear around Chicago, like all this cool stuff. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity. And I think it's a great opportunity for filmmakers to connect with people who have seen their films, and also possibly other patrons of the arts who are willing to help them with their next project. Art is a community entity, right? It's something that doesn't just belong to one person. It belongs to an audience. And I think that filmmakers having that opportunity to connect with audiences also gives them the opportunity to continue to create.
Having like the opportunity of having a filmmaker come into your class, like if you were a student, like what would like you be asking if you had this opportunity to watch someone talk about like their craft and you're like, okay, now it's my turn to ask them a question?
Yeah, I did get those opportunities. So, and I feel really lucky that I had those opportunities. Curtis too, I'm sure he remembers some of them. I think some of the questions that I would have if I were a student right now is, in a world that seems so hostile to the arts and so like kind of trivializes the arts as like, oh, it's not a real career or something like that. How do you continue to push and motivate yourself toward doing this as your profession? Like, what's the best way to set yourself up for success as a young person who doesn't have all the experience yet? Where do you go? Where do you get it? What kind of opportunities should I be taking advantage of right now? I think those would be the questions that I would ask.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Kind of getting back to the festival, like I remember watching the documentary and it said the first year that they were having the festival, they weren't sure if anyone was going to show up. And then that day of, there was like 700-ish people there. And so what does the festival kind of mean to you as like a filmmaker, a film studies professor, and even as like a resident in Winona?
Oh, it means so much. It's one of the reasons why I applied to the job in Winona. I remember writing in my cover letter about how the Frozen River Film Festival was one of the things I was looking most forward to, like collaborating with if I got the job. One, it is, again, a great opportunity for students to get involved in their profession. It's right here. They don't have to go anywhere else. It doesn't cost any money to them. The festival is free to students. You can just walk into any screening and they'll set you up with your pass, and as long as you have your student ID. And so that's part of it. And as like a professional, as a professor, I think it offers my students opportunities they wouldn't otherwise get, and especially in a rural community, a smaller community where we don't have, I mean, it's a 2-hour drive to the cities. It's kind of far, and if you don't have a car especially, right? Not everyone who goes here is from the cities, and so being able to have something like this, some like big cultural events like this, I think is really good for students, really good for the general community, because the general community also benefits in a lot of different ways. The festival works with other arts organizations, non-arts organizations. A lot of their sponsors are, huge employers in the community. The festival really drives our economy in the winter. And I think that's something that people might overlook or not think about often, but it's true. So it also benefits Winona as a community, as a town. And then for me, it's the opportunity to watch films I otherwise wouldn't get to see. A lot of these films don't have distributors yet, and we might not see these films anywhere else, right? We, like, especially the ones that become like award winners, they might go do the festival circuit, do the big 5 festivals, and then that was our opportunity, was when they came here. And so I think that is one of the best parts, is getting access to things that, you wouldn't get to see otherwise, that you might not find on Netflix.
Mm-hmm. And especially with like more niche and experimental documentaries. I think there's a documentary about like abandoned Pizza Huts and like what happens with that building once there's like no more Pizza Huts. So I think it's just such, again, like a wonderful opportunity to see these films you wouldn't have like otherwise seen. Are there like any films that you're looking forward to?
Oh my God, so many. So one of my top favorite films that I think is probably one of the most beautiful films, it's heart-wrenching, it's also hope-giving, is Champions of the Golden Valley. It's about some people in Afghanistan who start a ski club. And it's about so much more than that. It's also about the refugee experience, and there's so much to it. But that, to me, is one of the films that says a lot, and it's really beautiful. Another film is Slice of Life, the Pizza Hut movie. I'm really excited to see it. I haven't seen it yet. I've heard really great things. I really love Broken Eyes, which is about LASIK, and it's kind of an investigation into LASIK and, how it's been marketed and what effects it has that people don't always talk about. To me, that's something I would have picked like any night of the week on my couch watching Netflix, like for kind of more of like a true crime documentary, or like something about scammers. Like it's kind of like that. And then Click Trap also was eye-opening about the way that Google Ads is really running our lives, sometimes into the ground. That was, I would recommend that film to anyone. There's so many. Dream State, War Road is about hockey, and I didn't know if I'd like it, but as I was watching it, I was really, really impressed by the form. It's really hard to shoot hockey. It's a very fast sport, and then edit it to make it make sense. So that film to me was super impressive. But honestly, there's so many films that I won't be able to go to all of them, which is a real bummer. But I would suggest anyone look at the program or the schedule. You're going to find something that you're going to want to see.
Right. And there's such like a wide variety of different types of films. I feel like there's really something for everyone. And like kind of like the process of it, a community of volunteers come and they like go through and watch the films, write reviews, and kind of talk about what they want to see. What is kind of the importance of having like a community of volunteers like from Winona to come together and pick a film and be like, I want these 3 films to go together in a set? Like, what's the importance of that?
I think it offers us perspectives from people that we either know or maybe have heard of in the community, that we wouldn't otherwise get, right? Like, we're not usually sitting at Blue Heron telling each other like, okay, here's a playlist. You should listen to these songs in this order, and here's why. Like, we don't usually get that on a day-to-day basis. Maybe more so with music, but with film, like to tell someone, oh, I think you should see these 3 films and in this order and at the same time. Like, we don't do that. But the festival gives us that opportunity to kind of put ourselves in other people's shoes and think about how they see the world and what's interesting to them. And I also think there's something really democratic about how the festival picks films, right? The screening committee is huge. They're watching so many films throughout the year, and then they're rating them, and then they have a way that they aggregate all the ratings. And you can also, everyone gets like a trump where it's like, maybe not that phrasing. Everyone gets like a overrule. So if they really, really loved a film, they get one that they're like, this has to be in the festival. And I think that's really nice, that everyone feels like at least one film is something they really wanted to be in it.
Mm-hmm. Especially because I think I was talking to Eileen, and there's probably like, I think she received around like 300 films, and then they watch it and get it down to like around 60. Yeah. I think that's like such an intense process, and the fact that it's all like volunteer based, I think kind of speaks to like how much the community appreciates the festival and how they kind of want that to continue?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. My next question is, what do you think the benefit to having Beneath the Ice in the festival? What does that documentary add to it?
I think it gives the community an opportunity to reflect on their role in the festival in a really unique way, where they literally get to see themselves on screen reflected back to themselves. And I think they'll like what they see, because I think they'll see Winona as a loving, caring, committed community that has people of all different walks of life who come together to make this happen. And I think it's something we all need to be reminded of. To me, it was both important that it was critical, that it had critical moments where it wasn't just a fluff piece about how great the festival is, but it really highlights some of those controversies, and also is still a love letter to the community that puts this together and highlights all the work that people put into it. And I really hope that people will appreciate that when they see the film.
Yeah. In the documentary, one person said that really the Winona community just wants to see a documentary that is good. In your opinion, what makes a documentary good?
Oh man, this is a tough question. I like so many different kinds of weird documentaries. They're all so different. I think what makes a documentary good is when there is some driving force in the film that drives you to ask questions. If you watch a documentary film and you walk away and you have no questions about the way the world looks or how communities operate or function or the importance of, coming together, or if you don't have questions about what makes us human, then I think maybe the filmmakers didn't do their jobs.
How do you think the festival has kind of changed over the years? And how do you kind of envision what it will look like in the future?
Yeah, so I think it has changed over the years. I think it started as a event, right? As opposed to a nonprofit that gets funding from a bunch of different grants. It started as an event that people just really wanted to see happen, which is the best origin story for any arts organization. And it's grown into this arts organization that does so much more than just show films. It brings community together in other ways, and it starts bridging our community with other communities. So we've done different events with Pops Art Theater in Rochester and some theaters in La Crosse. And so it starts to bridge communities. And I think that is really a cool shift in the documentary film festival. And I think the direction it's going in is broadening in terms of what the arts organization does. I think bringing education in as a huge part of what the festival experience is, adding that to it makes it not just a festival anymore. Now it's a real arts organization that's committed to filmmakers. It's committed to people who want to make films. It's committed to film viewers. And it's committed to educating young people about the form, right? And I think that's really what I'm most excited to see, is how that further develops.
Thank you to Dr. Danielle Schwartz for joining us on Artbeat. For more conversations on art, tune into Artbeat right here on 89.5 KQAL. For podcasts of Artbeat and other KQAL original programming, go to kqal.org. I'm Elly Herrick, and we've just heard from producer and professor Dr. Danielle Schwartz.
Artbeat is written and produced by KQAL-FM on the campus of Winona State University. Visit us on the web at kqal.org.